Hey, what's going on YouTube? Alabama Reloader here. So tonight is really just kind of walking you through my brass prep process. I've done this multiple times over the course of me having this channel. I do want to point out a couple of things. One, Johnny is back, or Shannon, whatever. Johnny's reloading bench. Man, I'm so glad he posted a video. Today is Sunday. He uploaded a video talking about 257 Roberts, loading up some rounds to hunt with in that cartridge. I'm just glad he's back. Now, of course, in his video, he said he's absolutely not motivated to make videos, which is totally understandable, by the way, because this is not a job for me. This is simply a hobby. You know, I feel the same way from time to time where it's like, I mean, really, if you're hanging on every word I say or you're waiting on pins and needles about what content I'm going to put out on YouTube, you need to go do something else with your life, because trust me, the stuff I put out, it pales in comparison to some of the content that is actually out there in YouTube. There's so much better stuff to go watch. I just like to bring you guys along with what I do in my day-to-day, or, you know, reloading / shooting world, hunting world, that type of thing. So I just enjoy it. I think it's fun. But he did point out the fact that he's kind of over YouTube and he's just kind of done with it, which I don't blame him. But I was really glad to see him put out a video. I love his stuff. He's kind of part of the reason I got into making videos in the first place. Back in 2018, I think, was when I made my very first video and uploaded it. And a lot of my old, not saying that my new content is good or anything, but if you go back and watch some of my like really old videos, oh, it's bad. It's really bad. But I don't want to pull them down. I mean, it is what it is. It's all fun. So another thing that I will point out, so Eric Cortina, if you guys will go watch his Believe the Target channel, love that channel. He has, he interviews a ton of people across the kind of the spectrum of the shooting world, from barrel manufacturers to competitive shooters to you name it, right? I mean, anybody and everybody. He's interviewing them. And he just did an interview with Scott Satterlee, and if you don't know who that guy is, you got to go watch that interview, because I'm pretty sure if you've been into reloading anytime at all, you've probably heard of the Satterlee load method, or that type of load development method. Well, it's named after him, and he kind of walks through it in that interview and how his thoughts have shifted over time to kind of get away from really what that method, kind of applying that method. He doesn't do it now. He does something. He does a variant of that. He does something different, which is interesting. It deals with positive compensation and all this other stuff. Just really neat video to go watch. But one thing that Eric brought up in that video, I mean, I got to be honest, guys. I was on, I was kind of leading this train. I feel like I was leading it. I feel like I'm the one that maybe convinced Eric Cortina to do what he does now, which is he doesn't clean his brass. Go listen to the interview. He says he does not waste his time. He runs dirty brass. He reloads dirty brass. He anneals dirty brass. Been there, done that. As I didn't anneal it, but that's all I used to do. Guys, this wet tumbler, this is new, right? This is new to me and new to my process. I used to never clean brass, and I would bring that up in videos and people give me a hard time about it. You can hear it from the man himself. Go listen to the interview, and he talks about it. It's kind of funny, that he points out the fact that he's like, yeah, if my die gets dirty, I'll go buy another $30 die. It's, so what? Who cares? And his whole point is, which I understand his point is, he's a competitive shooter who shoots thousands of rounds a year. He simply does not want to take the time to, deprime the brass, throw it in a wet tumbler or a dry tumbler, any type of cleaning solution, and go through that cleaning process, just because it adds so much time to his process, which is completely understandable. I just never did it because I didn't want to do it. So, but I really feel like I was ahead of the curve on that one. So there you go. If you guys were watching from the beginning and you reloaded dirty brass because that's what I did, you're welcome. You do exactly what one of the greatest shooters of our time does. So you're welcome. But no, I clean my brass now. I do the wet tumble thing. For me, you know, it's all good. I'm processing. There goes a yee right there. I'm processing small batches of brass, you know, whenever I'm doing this. I don't load thousands and thousands of rounds and all that for competition. This is small batch stuff. But one of the things, so I just got done basically identifying a really good load for a guy at church and his rifle. It was a CVA Cascade chambered in 6.5 Creedmoor, and he was complaining a little bit about when he got it, he was a little bit underwhelmed when he took it to the range and shot with it. But he was shooting factory ammo, and you know, just kind of talking with him at church and some other guys that know that I reload. He came up to me and was like, "Hey, you know, I was wondering if you could work with the load in my gun. I've been pretty disappointed in its performance so far." And so of course I was like, "Man, yeah, I'll be happy to do that." Well, I was able to get that thing dialed in pretty good. And what was really nice was I was able to get it dialed in pretty good using these guys. These are the Hornady 140 grain SST. Okay, I'm a pretty big fan of the SST bullets, the 129 and the 140 and the 6.5 caliber. So for hunting purposes, right? And he said he wasn't going to be taking shots. You know, 300 would be absolute max, and he probably wouldn't even take that long of a shot. So reasonable, I guess traditional, in air quotes, hunting distances. And so that bullet's going to do great. And I ended up going with IMR 4350 as the powder. I'm using Starline brass. This is Starline is just one of my favorite brands of brass to use. If I can use them or Lapua, those would probably be my top two. Alpha Munitions also, they make great stuff. Peterson as well. So those are kind of the brands of brass that I like to run nowadays. And so I picked up this bag from Cabela's. They had it on sale. I went ahead and picked it up. It was 100 pieces, of course. Starline being Starline, they give you 101. That has been the case every single time I've purchased Starline brass, and I've purchased a lot of it. Like, I've used a lot of Starline over the years. Every single time, without fail, they give you an extra piece, which is nice, because you know who doesn't? Hornady. And I've got other videos that talk about that, so I'll just leave that one alone. But that's really nice. You get that extra piece just in case. Maybe there's a split case or something. Who knows what could happen. I've never had that happen with Starline, but it is good to have that one extra. So I was using a new Starline brass, and I burned through the first half of the bag, so 50 pieces, and found a load that shot really well, again with IMR 4350 and that bullet with Federal large rifle primers. And it is 41 grains of IMR 4350. It's been shooting really well, consistently well, under 3/4 of an inch with all the groups that I've tested, all of the rounds that I've put down the barrel with that combination, 3/4 or better. So really nice at 100 yards. But what I've done to process the brand new brass is the Hornady full-length sizing die that I have. I don't have the expander ball in here anymore. I haven't had it in here for a long time. I've got this die set to where I push the shoulders back on my Lapua brass. I think it's 2 to 3 thousandths, something like that. And it's set at that, and it does virtually the same thing on my Starline brass. So pushes the shoulders back. I think on the Starline, I think I average like maybe 1.5 thousandths, 2 thousandths maybe on my Starline brass. And I just leave the die just like that, run it up, you know, screw it down because it's already locked in place with the lock ring. And then what I did for the new brass was I actually ran them all through this full-length sizing die. Those first 50 pieces, I ran them all through here. And then after I do that, I screw it down just like normal, run them all up in there, and which there's not going to be hardly any work done at all because they're not fired. They're brand new, so they should be slightly undersized to begin with. They haven't been formed to the chamber yet. But after I do that, because what I want is I want all the necks to go up inside that die in terms of the outside diameter. I want consistency with the outside diameter first. Then what I do is I come back with this L.E. Wilson expanding dye, the mandrel dye that they sell, and I run them up over that. That's how I process them. Then from there, I will actually trim and then chamfer deburr, run them over the brush there. Now, when I trim, I'm not taking off anything because these are short. These are new. And again, they haven't been fired. Now, one thing I will say, I believe L.E. Wilson mentions on their website, this dye set was originally intended, or it is intended, to do just that. For brand new brass, it is meant to, or just brass in general, you know, once fire or whatever, if you drop it on the concrete or something, trying to get it, you know, ejected out of your rifle or something, you ding up the mouth, you know, maybe you dent the mouth a little bit. That's what this dye really is meant for, is to sort of, you know, round out the mouths of your cases. So it's not designed like some other mandrel dyes where you have different size mandrels, different, you know, diameter mandrels and all that. It is not designed to set neck tension per se. Now it sets neck tension obviously because it's a mandrel and you're running up inside there, and you're going to have consistent ID, right? You'll have a consistent ID. So you'll set your neck tension based off whatever that mandrel is, which according to them, and I did measure it, it's a half thou under bullet diameter. So it's 0.2635. So it's a half thou under bullet diameter, which is 0.264 for the 6.5. Which you would think is not a lot of neck tension, which it is not. You don't even have to think that. It's not a lot of neck tension. However, the seating force, it's different. I can't really explain it other than I have this mandrel in 6.5. I also have the 30 cal version. Now, I did this same process in my 30 TC brass, and there was a considerable difference in seating force when I loaded my 30 TC velocity test loads versus when I load my 6.5 stuff. Even in Lapua brass, it doesn't matter. You know, brand of brass, it doesn't matter. So I'm not exactly sure. Maybe there's just differences in the spring back of the brass. I have no idea. Now, the 30 TC brass is Hornady brass. So I don't know if it's just not springing back that well, because once I run it up over the mandrel and then I go and do the rest of the operations and I seat the bullets, they seat very easily, almost too easily, right? I would like to have this, I would like to have this actually be slightly smaller in diameter, but I'll probably just go buy a different mandrel and go about it that way with my 30 cal stuff. So yeah, so I don't know if it's just differences in the brands of the brass and the differences in the spring back. No idea, not exactly sure. But I follow this same process with 6.5 Creedmoor no matter what I load, right? No matter the brass, it doesn't matter. I follow this process every time and, you know, get pretty good results with it. So I just thought that was interesting, the differences in the neck tension, the force, the seating force. And it's enough where you can actually feel it. I don't have a force pack or any of that whiz bang stuff. I don't have any of that. But you can definitely, you notice a difference. So if you notice it just in the feel of how the press operates, then obviously there's probably a considerable difference in seating force. Not sure why though, because they're both of these mandrels are a half thou under bullet diameter. So that's it. That's where we're going to leave it. Really nothing earth-shattering. I was just going to kind of explain to you guys what I'm doing here. With this brass, I just run it up in the mandrel die. I've run all of them through the sizing die. Now I'm running them through the mandrel die. I will then come over here, trim, chamfer, deburr, run them up over the brush, and then go load them. Oh, I do also uniform the primer pockets just in case. Cut them to a uniform depth. Typically on Starline, I never even take off any material, but I just do it for consistency's sake. I don't know, that's what I do. And I also deburr the flash hole. So that's it. All right, well, like I said, you're welcome for those of you that stopped cleaning your brass way back when I told you to and said, hey, just run your dirty brass and it's all good, and I still shoot good groups, because I did back then. and nothing's really changed after I started cleaning my brass. I shot really good groups back in the day, so it is what it is. But yeah, so you're welcome if you listen to me. All right, that's it. That's where we're gonna leave it. Oh, heading out to Kentucky coming up this weekend. Gun hunt, gun season opener up in Kentucky starts Saturday, so I'll be rolling out, heading north pretty soon. So hopefully get a monster buck on the ground. Y'all stay tuned, and can't wait to bring you along for that trip. So y'all have a good one.